Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues. My name is Anthony. I'm an addict and an alcoholic, another bozo on the bus, and I care about you.
Yes, and I'm Louis, and my pronouns are he and him. I'm recovering for crystal meth and alcohol, and I am always in search of balance. Yes, and each week we strive to foster a brave space where we can engage in conversations centered around topics of recovery.
And our intention is to hold and inspire better cases. Better cases?
I know, exactly.
Better spaces for more people in recovery. Tackling, it's been so long. Jordan, where are you? And our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for more people in recovery by tackling issues sometimes used to separate us.
But before we do that, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and share this episode.
Share this episode. Tell your friends about us. I want you to get out of wherever you are. If you're driving, get out of the car.
Okay, move on.
Park. And tell the neighbor next to you about our episodes. And now the disclaimer. The thoughts and opinions expressed on At the CCC are as only we do not represent anyone but ourselves. In other words, we're just a couple of friends behind a mic here to entertain you. And of course, everything we talk about is for general information purposes.
You know what I really appreciated about that? You had the script in front of you.
I did, but I was so confident about the stuff that I memorized from a long time ago.
One of my intentions for today is to practice humility.
All right, let's start now. So it's good to see you, Louis.
Good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm okay. My allergies are horrible. My allergies are hard. The pollen index in San Francisco for the last couple of days has been moderate to high. Yeah, I can feel it.
So no, technically, for anybody listening, we've been away for a while. We're just trying to get some logistics together. But Anthony's been away for a really long while.
Have I?
Well,
that's right, because you had an episode.
Two.
You had two episodes.
Two episodes, and then a few weeks. And it's like I'm on, and it's
a few planned weeks.
It's like, where's Anthony? It's like I'm all, and I didn't even say anything mean about you when you were gone.
Oh, you want to go there?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
There have been some scheduling gaps.
No, it's all good. No,
there have been some scheduling gaps, but I feel very grateful that you and Jordan hold it down.
And I think that we made some changes behind the scenes to when we record, and so it may make a difference to the richness of the conversation, but also whether or not we. Yeah.
So for folks listening, what that means is we continue to evolve, change, adapt in these uncertain times.
These nuts. Oh my God. It's like, okay, I know we're going to be talking about
these nuts.
No. You got the text. I had gone back and I've been listening to we did a two-parter on when we first started doing a 30-minute format on online, and it was about sex apps and doom scrolling. Yeah. And I realized I'm so funny.
You realize you're so funny?
Oh my God. It's like I kept playing
hysterical,
back. When we were talking about the one guy, I was talking about the guy. I quoted, I sent you a copy of the transcript.
Yeah, I remember.
No, it's hilarious. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah. So we're going to pick up the second part of Smart Recovery. I actually had someone stop me on the street where they were saying, hey, I really appreciate that you guys talk about, you recently talked about a bunch of things that aren't related to AA specifically. And I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that was our goal. Our goal is to just let people know there's so many different ways of getting sober or focusing on recovery.
Absolutely.
So it was really nice to hear that, and thank you to that person. So we're picking up the second part of Smart Recovery. And so if you're just hearing this for the first time, Smart Recovery, as I've explained in previous episodes, I want to stop for a second. I hear it. Do you hear that? It sounds like a bag. It must be my jacket.
Don't worry about it, because what I've figured out is that a lot of times when you say, oh, stop knocking the table or whatever, the mics don't pick it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're fine.
All
so
right.
Just keep on doing. But
keep on doing.
I think it might be your windbreaker.
No, it's my beard against my windbreaker.
Because
it's ASMR.
We use, for those listening, you can't see, Anthony's lounging back, and he's got the mic in his stomach.
It's I have it sitting on my stomach.
The base is right on his gut.
It is right on my gut.
So of course it would be touching your beard.
Yeah. For folks listening, that's what my beard sounds like. All right, I'm going to jump back into this. So what is smart recovery? So smart recovery, it's secular, it's science-based, multi-dimensional program. And basically you can think about smart recovery the way you would say a standard CBT practice. So CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. It focuses on cognition, on changing behaviors. And it isn't necessarily focused on other components that you might see in AA, like spirituality, or taking a fearless moral inventory of yourself. So it incorporates things like motivational interviewing. There's also rational emotive behavioral therapy. So the major takeaway, if you're thinking about smart recovery, is that it's a different approach that is more focused on evidence-based care. And hold on, I'm going to lower my jacket a little bit because now I just feel like, okay, we'll do that. So major differences, it's science-based, it's a secular approach, much like the other ones that we've talked about, and it's focused on behavioral change, right? And specifically, we can think about it within the smart recovery lens as addiction being a learned pattern, not an identity. So we aren't necessarily, and by we, I mean, if we're thinking about smart recovery, you don't have to adopt the identity that you're an addict and an alcoholic and that it's always going to be this way, and because this is just who you are. Because in this case, in smart recovery, they're thinking about it more as a pattern of behavior.
You know something, I'm listening to you, and most of the things that we talked about, they are secular and non-spiritual. Maybe we should research, are there other alternatives, spiritual alternatives to, because that would be an interesting way to expand this conversation, because again, 12-step is not the only way.
Yeah. And in my work, I've come across quite a few people for whom faith is actually a way that they address addictive behavior, and it seems pretty effective. And then it also, it's for some people, it's the way, like organizing their lives in a way that we do with 12 steps, right? Same idea. Excuse me. So what is it made of? So it's building and maintaining motivation. So you're clarifying personal reasons why you might want to get sober. You're coping with urges, right? So learning practical moment-to-moment strategies for controlling cravings or riding the craving wave. And then you're also managing your thoughts and your feelings and behavior. So identifying unhelpful thinking patterns, emotional reactions, triggers, things like that. And then the last thing I would say about smart recovery is that one of its primary purposes is to replace addiction with meaning, connection, stability building, and basically a life worth protecting. Because when you're drinking and using, it might not feel like you have a life worth protecting. It probably feels more like a life worth, or rather a life you're enduring. So, smart recovery. And, if you have any experience with smart recovery, reach out. I don't know of anyone who's done smart recovery. The other thing that I'll add about smart recovery is that if you're comparing it to AA, smart meetings, for example, they are facilitator led, right? So it's usually people who are trained volunteers. It can sometimes be a clinician. It's discussion based. It's interactive. It's focused on current problems rather than life stories, and it's structured around tools and exercises. So if you've ever been in an IOP program, it's essentially like that. It's more of an IOP kind of intensive outpatient model generally, because I know there's some outpatient programs that are intensive outpatients that are 12-step focused.
Yeah, I while you were explaining that, I was thinking it's like I actually asked. Thank God Jordan's not here. I asked ChatGPT, how do individuals who are in smart recovery measure success?
And what did
because
it say?
I think what it comes down, it had quite a lot. But it's a reduced. What they were saying, and I think we talked about this, is that it generally is measured less by sobriety milestones alone and more by overall improvement in self-management, quality of life, behavioral change. And unlike other recovery models that strongly emphasize counting days, Smart Recovery tends to focus on progress across several areas.
Yeah. Life domains. Yeah.
So it's like, do they have a checklist? And who initiates that? Because they obviously don't have the whole sponsored thing.
Yeah, right. Like, where does the guidance come from? Like, who are you checking in with afterward? And I wonder if they have anything like that. I think some of the other things that are important to point out about Smart Recovery is that its primary goal is abstinence from addictive substances or and behaviors, right? Because you could use Smart Recovery for process addictions like gambling, sex, food addiction.
I feel like it would be really good if we also, we have this episode, but maybe come back to it with someone who has spent some time in Smart Recovery and ask those questions. Because I think it was great. I think it's great how we're presenting it, because a lot of people might have never been exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's like to have someone who actually can say, yeah, because honestly, it's like, my other question is like, why would somebody choose the Smart Recovery route over? And is it just because they don't want to talk about God? They don't want to talk about, or they don't want to, or they're so kind of, they have their strong feelings about 12-step.
I think that's interesting, because I think about that with the work that I do, right? Like, not every intervention is going to work for every different, for every person, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why we see people come in and out of 12-step a lot, is for them, it might feel like we're the only show in town. And the one of the great things about 12-step is that it is widely available.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's the longest.
It's free, $2 a pop.
Yeah. It's basically free, right? And so, so like I said, not every intervention is going to work with every patient that I work with. But more than that, if we're thinking about what's available to people, right? There's a few things, like you and I've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Like, at baseline, there's an assumption for people who are in the quote unquote know that all the other folks who are struggling with addiction, that they know all the things that are available to them. They know all the resources. And that's just frankly not true.
Not
right?
true at all.
It's not true at all. And part of that is, for a lot of these people, they don't know that therapy might be an option, or they wouldn't know how to access a therapist, or they can't afford a therapist, or their insurance don't cover a therapist, or the only thing they know about sobriety is abstinence, and all they know about abstinence is 12-step programs.
Or they're not even at that place, because it's like, I remember there was a time where I didn't think about not using.
Right. And so it's basically this big unknown for a lot of people. And I say that because we can't assume that 12-step is going to work for everyone.
No, absolutely not.
We like to build like that. And this is where I think some folks essentially do themselves harm, is that they try to do something like 12-step. And because of the language used in 12-step, the belief is this absolutely positively should work for me. And what I know, independent of recovery in my own experience, is that sometimes people are coming into 12-step and they've got a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, absolutely.
They
got things they have to, like, the most profound thing I've heard is you need to deal with the thing that's going to kill you first.
Yeah.
And it might not be what 12-step can help you with.
Right.
Maybe the mental stuff or whatever. I actually have a friend who is going through that now, where he's not even able to, I don't want to say willing, he's just not even able to acknowledge that he needs to address this first. And so coming to the meetings is like, of course it would be frustrating, because it can't possibly work for you.
Yeah.
One other challenge that I do have, and this is for someone who has come to 12-step, and rather than doing research on their own and figuring out what it is they need for themselves, they then begin to become anti-12-step. And every opportunity, it almost seems like, I'm going to talk negatively about it. And I'm like, you know what? How about we not shut the door on it for someone else? Because like you said, it works for some people, it doesn't work,
Yeah. And if I hear about someone doing that, what my sense is, this program has hurt them. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, in going back to this idea of like, it's not going to work for everyone, I think I mean, it's a very controversial thing to say, right? Like AA isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
And not because a person...
Why is it controversial?
Well, because the language we use in 12-step, for folks, it doesn't, if it doesn't work for you, it's because you are, quote, constitutionally incapable of being honest with yourself, end quote. And so that line, that structure makes it about you rather than it being about an incompatibility with the program. And so that's why I think it's controversial, because I think anyone in 12-step would say like, oh, if that person keeps drinking or using, like it's their problem. They're not doing the steps, blah, 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 blah. And what I know is that, and I see this a lot, like what I know is that, and you were speaking to this a second ago, folks could have some other stuff going on.
Yeah.
Right. Like, the drinking and the using is a symptom of the thing.
Exactly.
And so those things I think are really important. And I find like, and you've probably seen this a lot too, because a lot of people, what step do they go out on?
The 4th step.
Right. The 4th step.
Uh-huh.
And why is that the 4th step? Because it's all the shit that's been underneath the surface for such a long time starts to get stirred up. Right. Uh-huh. And so I think that's like evidence number 1. And then 2, you can also think about like if a person is dealing with any kind of internalized oppression, be it like internalized homophobia, internalized racism, internalized classism, like anything that really shapes the worldview, right? And then, for example, you step into a room, right? You step into a room with a lot of other people who are not well, and then it becomes very difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
And alienating. So that's what I mean. What I mean is that not every intervention is going to work for everyone. And I think smart recovery might, for example, be, better suited for someone who isn't really, ready to kind of do ready. Now, I don't even know if ready is the right word, isn't interested in looking at the stuff that might be underneath the surface. I'll say one more thing. My therapist years ago was saying that 12-step is very good at stopping the bleeding.
Yeah, it's like it satirizes or cauterizes.
Yeah, it's really good at stopping the bleeding, but then, it becomes a blunt object when there's other stuff going on. It's like, how invalidating is it if you're like, oh, it's really, I had a sponsee like this. Excuse me, folks, I'm like, my allergies and I'm like winded and I need to stop vaping. But you and I both have experience with this person. So I was sponsoring him for a while, and I like meeting with sponsees at the CCC because it's like it's just accessible and it's like a safe area. And we would meet there and he would start to get really anxious, and I could see him like a lot of shallow breaths. And then he would start to get activated and he would just start getting really negative. And a big part of it was because he's a man of color. He feels really uncomfortable around like gay white men, around kind of obvious or maybe perceived like appearances of wealth.
Yeah.
And there was also a lot of like comparison going on. And so he would get really activated and he's like, I can't do this. I can't be here right now. And I'm like, shit, like, well, you're not going to like meetings, So that's what I was thinking of about like why people might not want to do.
Yeah, no. That I can appreciate. There's so many other things that come up, and perception is a motherfucker because it's like I'll hear a lot of times like Jordan does this, like he'll mention something or whatever, and it's this implied idea or this idea that somebody comes in and they automatically think that we all agree on the same thing.
Yeah.
The reality of it is there's so many, as many people there's so many different ways that people approach this.
100%.
And I have to be careful. This is what I have to do. And I'm glad that we have these conversations. I have to be careful not to let my bias, because I didn't have those challenges, keep me from validating the fact that this is occurring for somebody. Like there's no way we're going to get them to the promised land if I am already like poo-pooing what they're saying.
Yeah. I mean, one of the, no, you're 100% right, because I can tell you from my own experience, one of the most meaningful experiences I ever had in 12-step was after a relapse. I might have shared this story with you. Have I told you the story?
What?
So I went to a meeting
with
Jason.
Jason.
Yeah.
Jason and I were talking about this the other day.
That was years ago. And let me tell you, Louis, that was so meaningful to me. One simple sentence. And I was like, he took it all away. Like
Absolutely.
The fear and the insecurity. So I'll just share with folks if I haven't shared it on air. So I was feeling really ashamed of, I had a return to use, or if I'm using 12-step, I had a relapse and I felt so ashamed of myself. And I've had many relapses, but this was my first one. So I felt so ashamed of myself. I felt humiliated. I felt small. I felt like I'm going to have to fucking raise my hand and tell these people that I failed. And I was, I have a history of feeling insecure and self-conscious. And so I was at this meeting, and, if you're not familiar with 12-step, sometimes at the beginning of a meeting, they'll ask for newcomers to raise their hand. And a newcomer is generally defined as someone who has less than 30 days of continuous sobriety. So the secretary had asked for newcomers to raise their hands. I didn't raise my hand. And to my right was my sponsor. And my sponsor looked at me and said, "Why didn't you raise your hand?" And I was like, "Because I don't want to." Mm-hmm. And my sponsor said, "Raise your hand." I was like, "No, I don't want to." And then Jason, I turn over to Jason. He's like, if you don't know him and you're ever in SF, find me and I'm going to introduce you to Jason. Jason's fantastic. So he says to me, "Anthony, what's wrong? Did you relapse?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did." And he's like, "Girl, I relapse all the time." And his saying that was so disarming for me. Like, he made it okay. That one thing, I really do feel like Jason saved my life, because that one interaction I had allowed for me to come back every single time I relapsed.
Yeah.
Right. And to your point, perspective, I mean, that changed my perspective on myself, on the rooms, right? And so I think it's true, right? Like, I think part of it is like, not everyone in those rooms is necessarily going to have the same beliefs.
No, not at all.
Right? And not everyone in that room is approaching recovery the same way.
No.
And I do think a person does themselves a disservice if they don't at least allow themselves to connect with other people.
Absolutely.
And get different perspectives.
Lately, what's been coming up? Go where the water is warmest. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Find the folks that you feel the most that you're vibing with or whatever. So that, and I feel like it's a courageous act to raise your hand after you've been coming back. Because I shared at a meeting this afternoon, and one of my former sponsors, he's been back, and he raised his hand, and I singled him out in a loving way. I just said, "You know what?" Because he was the only one to raise his hand. I told him, "I see your courage. I absolutely see your courage. It's not an easy thing because you come in with, oh, everybody's going to think this and everybody's going to think that or whatever. But, it's pretty amazing." Also, one of the other things, I talk to sponsees who have experienced relapse. I realized they have something that's powerful that's going to be so beneficial to someone who's going to, because like, I realized that all of the relapse that I've experienced was before I came to the rooms. That, and I was talking to somebody else thinking, I'm kind of envious of folks who have been able to experience this in the rooms, because I did all that before I came in. I did all that uncertainty, all that beating myself up, and I didn't have loving support of somebody saying, "Hey, this is something that happens." Yeah. This is it. I don't agree with that relapse is a part of recovery. I believe relapse is what it is. And recovery becomes after. And it doesn't make it a good or a bad thing. It just is relapse,
Yeah.
It's just me trying to get to a place where I'm figuring this shit out. Because if I've been using for 15 so years or whatever, I'm not sure. Who's shocked or surprised that I go to what I know? I don't, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And the other part of that is the connecting with other people. I forgot the thought, but I did want to respond to what you were saying about that you don't believe that relapse is part of recovery. What I like to tell people, because my belief here is that relapse is evidence of a need for recovery.
Absolutely.
You know, like if you had any doubt, this is my opinion, not necessarily the opinion of anyone other than that.
No, exactly.
If you were listening to the disclaimer, that's what we say.
We speak for ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes I say it and I contradict myself and I have to catch myself later.
Yeah. And sometimes you speak for me and I don't.
Well, I always speak for you. It's like, I'm all, bitch, shut up. Shut the fucking up.
Get in your place. Get in your place. So relapse, I think relapse is, well, let me, my first thing that I want to say is, if you're listening and you're someone that struggled with relapsing or returning to use or some compulsive behavior, first thing I want to tell you is that I'm happy you're alive. I'm happy that you're still trying.
Absolutely.
And I think, not that it matters what I think, but that to me feels more important than anything else. Whenever I see someone come back into the rooms after they've been out for such a long time, my first thought, and I kid you not, is I'm so happy you're still here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
First thought. The second thought is, going back to what I was saying about relapse, is, again, I need to stop vaping. I'm so winded and I've just been sitting here. I think, actually it's not the vaping. It's the fact that it is hard to breathe through my nose.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, so the return to use is, it's evidence that, that there is addiction there. And whenever someone relapses, like what I tell them is like, yeah, this is what some of us do because, especially with meth. I know I've said this before, but I have to say it again. I think recovering from fucking meth addiction is so much harder than a lot of people know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I think it's so much harder than a lot of people know. And I would even say as much as like, it's especially difficult for gay men. It's especially difficult for people for whom sex has been tied up with meth use, right? Like where identity issues have shown up in the meth use, right? But I want to just quickly name some other things about smart recovery in relationship to everything that we've talked about. Is that one of the things that is also different is that you don't necessarily have to be abstinent to attend meetings. When it comes to smart recovery, that might change depending on what meetings you go to. And the other thing is that with smart recovery, change is considered more of a process rather than like pass fail. And the reason why that feels important to say is that, excuse me, I just burped and didn't want you to hear that. So not pass fail, because one of the things I hear a lot in the rooms, especially people who've been in and out before, is that they feel like they're starting over. They feel like they failed. And I think people who've been around long enough will say like, no, this is a process. It's like, it's not like the recovery you had beforehand was lost. But that the change as a process is more explicit in smart recovery. And the other thing is, and I think we would agree to, at least in the spaces that I've been in, is that like relapses are seen more as like learning opportunities rather than like some moral failures. And I don't think in 12-step we talk about relapses as a moral failure.
Yeah, no, I feel like the way in which we present it, I feel like folks would benefit from more conversation about like, it's not a moral failing.
All right.
It is absolutely not. And it's, like you said, it's an opportunity to see what you get. For me, I always say it's like, you don't lose what you had, and you are not the same person you were when you first started.
100%. Yeah. And then just 4 other thoughts I wanted to make sure I got out there before we land this plane.
30 other thoughts? No.
Is that some of the core beliefs with smart recovery are that motivation fluctuates, right? It isn't fixed. It's going to some days need to be strengthened, explored, cultivated. And then the other part of that is that thoughts also influence behavior, right? That's more of the IOP CBT language. So
every time you say CBT, I'm all cock
and ball torture. I know. I wonder how many people are like, man, they do that in the SF. Wow, all kinds of psychological interventions. But yeah, thoughts influence emotions, which influence behavior, right? That's a CBT framework. And so changing unhelpful thoughts also changes behaviors. Don't shake. And then last 2 things, which is that urges rise and fall, right? So an urge to use will come up. It'll leave, and that's whether or not you act on them. So it's writing them out is a learnable skill, which is if you've done any kind of formalized recovery care, we call that urge surfing. And the last one is that fulfillment, right? Life fulfillment reduces relapse. So fulfilling life, right, reduces reckless risk more effectively than fear or the consequences of doing that. And so smart recovery emphasizes self-efficacy. Where in 12-step, I think it would be more about like a reliance on a power greater than yourself.
Absolutely.
So that concludes our episode on smart recovery.
Yeah, I feel like I want to say it's like, you know what?
What do you want to say?
We need to normalize. We need to normalize.
What do we
like,
need to normalize?
You taking whatever actions you're taking, wherever you head, if you head in the direction of 12-step or any of the other programs that we discussed or whatever, you're doing this because of how you want to feel, how you want to change you, whatever, and that it's about you because you're a grown ass whoever.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
That's right.
And it's like, come on, this is like, if we understand, it's like, for me, like, I want to be the best I can be. And I need to do the work to figure out where that is that I need to land. And these are options.
They are.
Yeah.
You know what else is an option?
The Castro Country Club being a safe and sober community center for all people under refuge for the LGBTQ recovery community.
We provide programs and services that help change lives by supporting personal growth.
You know what? Our vision is to reduce the suffering of addiction by connecting people to community opportunity and support.
You can find more information, including all the ways to contact us, at www.castrocountryclub.org/podcast.
Yes, and please, you know what? Go ahead and click on that. Whatever,
like, subscribe.
No, but whatever you use to kind of remind you that a new episode is uploaded, because we will get it together. But every Monday we try to get you a new episode.
Yeah, listen, a little self-disclosure here for folks listening. We are a volunteer podcast.
That sounds like an excuse.
Listen. Louis, Jordan, and I, and all other people affiliated with the podcast, we work more than full-time hours.
Absolutely.
And listen, we love you. We think about you all the time. And sometimes, you know what, we're human and we can't get things out there when we want to. So what we say here is that we aim to get them put out by Monday, and sometimes one person is to blame.
Oh, pow, 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 bang, 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 slack.
No one is to blame. We happy you continue to listen to us. We love you, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.